have a wonderful special treat for you in this Thrive by Design series. Here, we are in the Root Hub. This is where we find foundation and stability. And you're going to see that this key right here only opens the root. And so we're going to travel together in the root center, the Root Hub, and we're going to get to know the archetypes that live there and the ones that commune together. And they all have a similar theme. They are all fueling the body graph, fueling your body. And so to know these, to understand these, and to ultimately walk with them in your life is what's going to help you utilize the fuel that they have to offer so that you can then fuel your dreams, fuel your visions, fuel your expression, fuel your endeavors. And this is what's going to help you walk through the world in abundance and thriving instead of surviving. And this is the particular center that can and will show up these survival tendencies when it is in the lower expression or it's not getting its needs met. Okay, are you ready? Ready to go? Okay.
Ready to go.
Okay. Ta-da! Okay, so this is the Root Hub. Like I said, it's like a house all unto itself, and every single archetype, they have their own rooms in the house. And you can see that within the body graph too, they all are pointing towards something else. So you're going to see that with the ones on the left side, they are moving this energy, this fuel to the splenic hub. And then the ones on the right side, they're moving the energy, the fuel to the solar plexus hub. And then we have this powerful central column moving towards the sacral, fueling the motor, fueling this energy to then move the energy up through the rest of the body graph. And Bella, did you want to dive in and talk about the cool different frequencies we have here in the root?
So here we have the pressure to stay alive, and we have this fuel to seek and to become more. And at a low frequency, when we don't have a lot of resources and we don't have shelter, we don't have food, we don't have those basic things, it's really stressful. So the low frequencies, knowing that we have this fuel to survive, but not having the resources to do it. So kind of trying to make it work. And it is connected to the adrenal glands. It's going to be that adrenaline that kind of more looks like fighting to live, fight or flight, that kind of energy in the lower frequency. And it's more about surviving than to get anywhere. Mm-hmm. And in the gift frequency, we have those basic needs. They're already there, they're covered. So then we have a drive to, we could say, an aspiration or a drive to ascend, to do more, to build, to be better, to be happier. Depending on where we're looking, all the archetypes have a little bit of a different agenda, but they have the drive to live up to that thing that they are wanting. So that's the pathway, the human pathway. We have our basic needs covered, and then we're able to create and to build so many things in the world. And here we have that gasoline, we have that energy to build. And the highest frequency has to do with evolution. And I would say it's about that evolutionary impulse that the human being is. We are the species on Earth that is the most evolved because we have that inherent seeking. This is a lot of those gene keys are also connected to the coding of seeking, which is inbuilt, inherent in the human being. We are seeking for more. We're seeking to grow. We're seeking to evolve. And that is something that we can do when we have the basic needs covered. So remember, in your life, we're starting the body graph from the root center, and your life starts from the pressure, the stress in the center. So you want to make sure that you have a hygiene in your life where you are actually looking to those basic needs before you try to build something, because it's going to be like building a house of cards. Then everything can fall out. So it's important to start here and to understand, especially those things with fight and flight, where so many people in the modern world actually get stuck where the nervous system is in sympathetic drive all the time, instead of having those periods of rest as well, the parasympathetic that comes in. So that is something that I would say this journey starts here in the root hub, and the foundation is to have a healthy nervous system. The stability comes from having a healthy nervous system, and stress is one of the things. Stress and trauma are two things that are really affecting our ability to have that groundedness, that foundation.
Mhm. Yeah, and here in the body, the way that this would show up if you are reacting to stress and you're in the shadow frequency too long, you can go into adrenal fatigue. It's all about stress hormones here. And this is a real thing. Whether you have it open or you have it defined, I think the people that have it defined and have a really unhealthy relationship with stress, and they don't know how to carry that bandwidth of the fuel that's going through them and just pulsing through them, they're going to put out that inability to cope and flow with this immense amount of pressure within them, and they're going to put it out there for all of the undefined, for all of the open root people to feel and then be conditioned by. So I think that with everyone, it's all about your ability to surf the frequencies within your nervous system and to be able to create resiliency and bandwidth there, whether you have it defined or whether you have it open. And like you can see here, I mean, you can get wrapped up inside the spirals and vortexes of all of this stress that is actually fuel. So we can look at this energy as stress that we're overwhelmed with, or we can look at this as fuel that we then can channel into our expression, into other ways of manifesting this energy here. So I think that this is the most important place for us to begin, because you can utilize this energy for so many beautiful things. And when we respond to this fuel instead of reacting to the stress, we're putting more beautiful energy into the world. And when you can respond out of stillness and joy, that's what you're going to put into the world versus all of this stress energy. Like, let's just get it off. Let me get it off my plate, or I can't hold this anymore because, it's overwhelming. And the next place we're going to go into together is the defined root and the undefined root. And they both have different expressions. And if you have, if it's white, we call it open or we call it undefined. You may have activations in here, which means that maybe you have a red gate or a black gate that come out of this, but everything is open here. What that means is that you don't have a channel, two gates that are coming together to then define two centers. Did you want to kind of explain this more so people have clarity about what creates definition? I explained it, but I feel like you have a wonderful way of articulating it.
Yeah, harmonic gates that are, like you were saying, two gates that meet are creating channels. And when we have a channel, we're going to have both centers and both sides of the channel defined. So that's what actually is going to create our aura type, because that's the defined center, and also our inner authority. So wherever you have in your chart two gates that meet, that's really, especially when you start your journey with human design and deconditioning, you want to look there because you know that wherever two harmonic gates meet into a channel, that's a consistent theme for you. So if you have an open route and there are only hanging gates or no gates, you know that that's not a consistent theme that you're always going to be putting out in the world.
Mm-hmm. So when we're going to look and compare these two, if we look at the defined route, you're here to utilize that fuel, like I was saying before, and release and process it in a healthy way where you are being productive with the pressure versus reacting to it. You're fueling your creative endeavors. You're getting the creative juices flowing. And in the unhealthy defined, this is all about utilizing our fuel to please other people, and that's still going to be depletive because your body could be saying no, but you could be putting it towards things that are just not for you. And maybe you're also pushing that energy on somebody else and overloading them, or even like forcing them to be productive and work when maybe they have an undefined route and they're not here to have that consistent fuel. They're going to need to take breaks. Maybe they don't have a defined sacral either, and you're a generator with a defined root, and you're like, I have all this energy, and you're judging the other people that are open here, undefined here, that maybe can't keep up with you. And that's not wrong. It's just we're all made a certain way because we have purposes for our energy that our soul has decided. It's like, I want to be defined in this way, and I want to be open in this way, to be able to plug in, to be able to receive. So we have this receptivity here, and then we have this like putting energy out. So we are empowering the world with this fuel energy, and these people are receiving it.
That's really good. That's a really good way of explaining in general open centers and defined centers is the energy direction. So for open centers, the energy is coming in and they are a filter for their energy. They can either be conditioned by it or they can be discerning and wise about the energy because they have felt from so many different transits and people, they have felt the energy of those gates. And then when it comes to the defined, the energy direction is opposite, so that energy goes out in the world. So that's what we're saying, when we have defined centers, there are going to be those themes that come from the channels that are defining the centers, and the energy direction is out in the world. And like Ashley said, you're here to impact people. And there is something here with the defined that I would say could be a little bit of a misunderstanding, because I wouldn't say in general that the defined center has the pressure to be productive. It's more that those archetypes that live here kind of have an agenda. They have the fuel and they want something. You know, the 38 wants to find purpose. The 58 wants to find a pattern. They have something that they want to do. So it's very natural for them to use the energy and go after it. They wouldn't say, oh, I feel so much pressure. No, it's like an inherent pressure to find the pattern, to find the purpose, to find the focus. That's what they are here for. So it's the defined root isn't feeling bad about the pressure when it's in a healthy state. However, like you were saying, the defined root is really here to actually kind of have the undefined root feel pressure, because for the undefined, they don't have that in themselves. So they might not care about the pattern or about the purpose or about the focus. Like they're like, you know, they are the ones that feel pressure. The defined root is putting pressure on the undefined root more than anything. And a healthy defined root has the energy. Like I have the 38. I have that. When there is something that I care about, I have so much energy. And maybe people that look at me kind of, it looks like I'm straining or it's too much, but for me, it's normal to do that. If I feel stuck and I have nothing to put my energy on, I actually feel much worse than if I have this clear purpose, focus, meaning of like how I'm putting out my energy.
What would be an unhealthy or healthy expression of the undefined root? Like how would we distinguish that? Like what should the undefined root be?
And here we would take that example of children that are they're home for their first years, and then they are put in school. And at home they kind of got used to their parents' definition. So there possibly is a way of coping with that. But then suddenly they are with 25 other kids in a classroom where at least a lot, like half of them might have a defined root. So there is going to be this amplification of all the energy, of all the pressures, of all the fuel that's there, that their vehicle with the open root has never really been in before. So these are the kids that can look like ADHD or ADD. They are amplifying this pressure and they don't have a way to channel it. They're too young yet to even know what to do with it. And then they are looking like they are erratic and they are running around, and then we medicate them and we say it's their fault, but they are actually just filtering and taking in and amplifying the energy that's already there. So the undefined root would be the kind of natural expression, but a healthy undefined root is saying, oh, that's interesting, I'm in this circle now, I'm with these people. And then it can actually even name the pressure that's there, and it can actually name kind of the agenda of other people. Oh, Bella, you're all about this thing, why are you struggling? Like, why do I look like, what does it look like you're struggling all the time? Oh, Ashley, why are you always want to begin something, you know, or why? They can point these things out and make us more aware of our fixedness that we have in our definition of the root. So it's a beautiful interplay, but especially early in life, or when you come into a new situation where you haven't been in before, where your body's like suddenly just filtering all that, it tends to have the risk to go into conditioning and not self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the best resource for the root and the feeling of that stress and that pressure is your breath, and being able to breathe through it and center yourself through that, and also being able to like move and shake it out. I think that's the hyperactivity that we see in some kids too. It's like they're trying to move this energy that now they are bringing in to themselves, you know? And the same thing happens when they need recess breaks. And I think us as adults, we need that too, because especially if we're having a lot of interaction with other people and maybe we're really open, you need to be able to like let go of that energy. So like Bella said in the very beginning, hygiene is really important. And it's not just like washing your body, it's like really tuning into your energy and being able to reset. Yeah, sometimes I mean, Bella, even before we started filming this, she was like, I need to separate for a little bit and be in my own energy so that I can have clarity without being impacted by my energy too. And that's a healthy boundary.
Yeah, I would say for the open route, it's important for you to always take your time before you even say, before you say yes to something. You don't want to be pressured into anything. And sometimes we say this with other centers, with the emotional center, for example, but I would say here it's important to not be rushed into anything, because the tendency, the not self of the center, is to hurry, to be done with things. So it's going to be easy for you to say, okay, let me just say yes and get done with it, because then I don't have the pressure of the other that wants me to do this. So it's important for you to not be rushed or pressured into anything. And when you have something that you need to do, if you can check yourself, am I over work? Am I doing too much? So that I can be done. I can see this in my partner. He has an open route, and when he takes a project that is maybe 4 or 5 days, like he can't let it go. He just wants to be done with it. And many times it's like 10 in the evening or 11 in the evening, because it's there. It's like, it's kind of a shoe that you're walking in and it's not comfortable. And he needs to get up the pressure before he can breathe. And that is the not self of the undefined route. So you want to actually manage the pressure in a way that is healthy for you. Like Ashley said before, it has to do with the hygiene. So don't allow anything to pressure you to do something. And just because they tell you, oh, last time it only took 3 days for you, that would kind of be the worst thing for you. And especially if you have some other centers, like an open ego or an open ajna, like that's going to create all kind of spirals of like, you're not good enough for this or that. So really, stay with the undefined route, and kind of, if you have an undefined route and we say that's the first center where you start, you want to make sure that center, that undefined center is healthy before the other undefined centers almost. Because here, if you have the stress and you're pushed out of balance in your root, in your groundedness and your foundation is off, you can learn everything about an open ajna or an open spleen, but I would say this is probably where you want to start.
How do you ground? How do you reset? And it's equally as important to really, as you're going through this Thrive by Design journey, feel into your root without anyone around you and get used to that energy. Because as soon as you get in contact with somebody else, even if you have a defined root, I'm going to feel the impacts of Bella's 38. That's going to come in because that channel's there. Even though I have all these other ones, the same thing here. I think that it's important for us to know when there's expectations and pressures coming, like when a defined root is pressuring an undefined root, you can tell when they're pressuring versus when you're just filtering their stress. When it's not like they're taking their ball of stress and throwing it at you. It's like you can just feel that they are in their stress, but they're not expecting you to take it from them. So you really need to look at how are you reacting and how are they reacting, so you can see, do you have a tendency to want to like carry other people's stuff even though they're not asking you to? Or can you tell the difference between somebody like putting their stress on you and pressuring you? I need you to work. I need you to do this. I need you to finish this task. Why aren't you doing it? Get off your butt. Stop doing this. That kind of pressure, especially for an undefined root, isn't healthy. So you need to learn how to stand your ground and like not respond to the pressure. When you feel more pressure, don't react to it. Don't respond to it. It's not yours. It's them spiraling out of control, wanting help.
Yeah, I have 2 more things. So if you have a defined route, I would say you're not here to be productive and have energy for everything. So it's important to be discerning, because you might have that misunderstanding. Oh, I'm here to be productive. I'm here to have so much drive. You are here to have drive with the specific things that are defined. And we're going to see further on in Thrive by Design that are very different kind of archetypes and pressures. So it's not that you have the energy for everything or can be productive for everything. Ross speaks about ingredients, and it's not good to kind of turn on the fuels that are not your ingredients. You're here to have what you have. And that's the same thing for the open. It's not here to constantly be like working with archetypes that are not there. It's here to meet all the archetypes, but they're not there to be turned on high volume all the time. And then the completely open route. I mean, here there can be an enormous wisdom about stress. These people don't have a preferred way of processing stress and pressure. There's no preferred way. So they're going to feel the whole spectrum of all these archetypes as a way of coping, in a way, as a way of understanding what foundation and grounding is. So for these people, I would say the best advice is to always come back to your stillness. And you want to do that often. It's a little bit like we say something with open spleen. You want to know you want to feel into if something is good for you or not. And the best way to do that with the undefined root is to return to stillness, and I would say to be in your own space. And meditation is amazing here, because we are speaking about this impulse, about this kundalini, about this rocket ship that are like pushing all the fuel up into the body graph in all these channels that go up. So if you can meditate, and even like kundalini meditation, and allow your life force to balance, if you have a completely open root specifically, that is going to help you so much. Because when you are circulating your own energy, nobody else's energy can really come and be more powerful than your own, when you're aware of it and when you know how to actually circulate it and work it and feel it.
Mm-hmm. That's sound advice. Okay, so as an overview for all of this, we're going to go back to all the archetypes and just shortly describe the fuel. So here we have the 58, and this is the fuel of vitality, and this is to correct or perfect. And then with the 38, we have the fuel to fight or find purpose. The 54, we have the fuel to drive or to rise up. And then moving into the 53, we have the fuel to begin. And this is the fuel of restraint in the 60. And the fuel to focus in the 52. And then when we move into these, we have the 19 is the fuel to support or to need. The 39 is the fuel to provoke or to find spirit. And then we have the 41, which is the fuel of contraction or to desire. And those are all the archetypes that live in the root hub. And they're all contributing to that foundation and stability. So that fuel needs to go somewhere, and it wants to move the energy. And so I hope that this helped you connect with these archetypes at a more deep level, and that you will take this information and then walk with these archetypes in your life. Now that you can kind of plug into them and you kind of get a sense of who they are, even though they're not manifested physically in front of you, so that you can have a conversation with them, you're going to need to find and source these within you. And the embodiment process comes when you're able to interact with them in life. And you can look at it from a logical sense, an abstract sense, an individual sense, whatever it is you're doing. It's like, have these experiences with them so that you can then embody their higher expression. And the only way to know what the higher expression is to also recognize the low expression in yourself and in other people.
And I have two things. And the first thing is the way that we're looking at the center. You see that the center is isolated. And some of the courses that are out there, when they teach about the centers, they're going to have like 9 chapters, and it's really isolated in one center. And the way that we are showing this is where it's all connected. It's all an ecosystem. Those hubs are not isolated. They are all connected to each other, and they're feeding off of each other. They're collaborating. Sometimes there might be friction, but friction, as we know, is also part of evolution. So this way of starting to understand the mechanics of the body graph and the mechanics of human life is what I would say, especially when we start here in the root center. So continue, now that we are, instead of fragmenting things, we are weaving things together. Continue that perspective wherever it interests you. That's the first thing. And the second thing has to do with the foundation and stability. So what we said in the beginning is that you're not here to necessarily value all of these processes, and your foundation and stability. And here we also speak about energetic stability that comes in money, that comes in, how empowered you are in everyday, like it's really your foundation. So here I would say again, your foundation stability is going to come to tune into what Ashley was saying. What is it that you value? What of those processes are important for you? What is in your chart? What is the theme that you're here to live out? When you look at that and you're kind of are faithful to your definition, to what's there for you, that's when I feel like you can create a foundation that is energetically is aligned, that is going to allow you to have the joy, the stillness, the money, the stability, like all these things that you're looking for. But you want to be true to your circuitry, and you want to know these archetypes, how they are living in the not self or in the shadow, and how they're expressing in a higher frequency, because then you can attune your attitude and your way of being also to the gift frequency, and that is going to propel you up to a higher functioning.
Well, this is a beautiful process and an exciting process too. I love how you mentioned about the interconnectedness with everything. We're taking a holistic approach, and we're starting in this root hub, but as we continue on, it's going to connect to all the other ones. So we're not leaving it behind as we're moving forward. We are connecting it and continuing on and including it. So thank you for your perseverance here and dedication to this whole process, and also the education of it all, because it's beautiful. Thank you so much.